It's a beautiful day here in southeastern Michigan. We'll start early, and that way, when people jump in at noon, they're gonna go, "Oh my gosh, I'm late." I have no idea who's going to show up. It's Mother's Day. It's an hour earlier than normal. I mentioned a few seconds ago in the chat here that the entire month of April for me was a loss. I've just written the entire month off. I got news on April 4th in the morning that my brother had passed away. I'm the youngest of six boys, and I know many of you've heard this, but the funeral and all the other activities were this past weekend, a week ago. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was busier than I've been in a long time. So I didn't have time to do a live stream, and I apologize for that. But I have another issue this afternoon at 2 o'clock, so I've got to bail a little bit before 2 o'clock. So rather than doing a 1 to 3 and just canceling it, I decided, okay, how about this? I'll move it up an hour, and we'll get almost 2 hours. So we'll talk about some other stuff along the way, but I got to say hi to Jador8. What up? Checking in. Art S from New Jersey. Chris Tope and Padre. Beautiful day in drought-stricken South Georgia. Drought-stricken South Georgia. Yeah, I got 60 degrees and sunshine right now. We had rain a couple days ago. We might have rain on Tuesday, but it's beautiful right now. I got out and mowed the lawn yesterday, so I had some fun there. The autograph of Dalhagen. I need some coffee, and I made the obvious joke the other day. Okay. To Paul 31, good afternoon, Steve. Good to see you, my friend. SCJ643. Hi. Kevin Thomas, registration for the SEMA show is now open. I've never been to SEMA. I'm not sure will they let me in. I mean, am I media enough? JP, good morning from Covington, Kentucky. JP, of course, is my good friend who is getting me into the Jeep thing. Taekwondo guy, Anyang Shmika. Happy Mother's Day, Mr. Lehto. And to you, my friend. Frankie B, 1951. You have my condolences, Steve. Sorry to hear about your brother. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I got so much nice feedback from people, comments on videos, emails, messages, you name it. And I was very, very touched. And it's one of those things where, I get a certain amount of feedback just from the videos I do, but there's always a mix of good stuff, bad stuff, and who knows what else. And so to get a response that's overwhelming and overwhelmingly positive is such a new thing, especially for a YouTuber. So it was a very pleasant surprise. So thank you very much. Hazel Montgomery, hello. Hello. Sean M, Steve, and everyone in the chat, hello. Mustang MGO5, we understand you have a real life. Theoretically, yes. Kryptonic HD here for the Lehto celebration. I was actually thinking earlier today, it's almost time to break out the skateboard. But I'll film it. And if you never see film and I show up wearing a cast, you'll know what happened. Oh, Andrew T, Andrew's Adventures. Hello, Steve. Greetings from Canada. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Art S, you hadn't acknowledged them, so I assumed you hadn't received them. Referring to pictures. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I get some days I get so many emails. I'm just going through emails, madly reading them, and I don't know when you sent them. I'm trying to remember, but unfortunately, like I said, if it was in the month of April, the entire month of April of mine, like I said, was pretty much just scrapped. I barely remember what happened. Tom Rogers, hi Steve. JR, condolences on the loss of your brother. Thank you very much. I posted a video on my second channel where I was talking about my brother. If you haven't seen that, go to Steve Lehto's other channel. And I put up a video about my brother. And I also put up a video this past Friday. And I posted a little video where I got to walk his property last weekend as we're scattering his ashes. And there's a stream that flows across his property that is gorgeous. And I took some video of it and posted that at the end of a video. So, it's something outdoors people will appreciate, seeing a stream that's, 15, 20 feet across, ankle to knee deep, crystal clear water. I would have no trouble just taking a cup like this, scooping it up and drinking it. I guarantee you it's cleaner than anything you buy at the store. So Rudy, good morning. Steve, sorry to hear about your brother. Good memory from what I heard you talk about. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, he and I shared a bedroom uh, all through my school years, So we had a lot of late night talks. And, I mean, you know all your brothers very well, but I knew him quite well. He's also the one who hooked me up with my first car, the 1969 Dodge Charger. He's the one who encouraged me to buy it and said, if you buy it, I'll paint it and I'll do the body work and I won't charge you for anything but the materials and materials at cost. So, 600 bucks later, I was driving around in a car that looked so beautiful. It was insane. Daniel Kester, I'm here. I'm glad you are, my friend. Good to see you. Kryptonic, I live in San Diego, most expensive place ever. The news did a report saying the mayor gets paid more than the governor, something around $250,000. In what world does that make sense? Well, the weird part is that, of course, those rates are set by some kind of governing body. And, that does not make a whole lot of sense to me. But then again, they might figure, well, the guy's got to live here. He's got to afford it somehow. Jim's camera at dawn. Happy Mother's Day to all moms. Old McDonald has a car. Hello, Steve. Dan E. Boyd. Believing yourself suggests that to know Steve Lehto is to love Steve Lehto. How well do you really ever know anybody? Weird car life with TC. And I believe that's just a period or a point or a dot. Art asks, have your brother at Williams take you to Department of Defense trade show? Way better than SEMA. I bet it is. They probably make you sign disclaimers and tell you to leave your camera at the door. Georgiana Thornton from San Antonio, Texas says hello. Kryptonic HD says, I asked because my brain is too small to understand how he voted for this. Well, actually, that's the thing that most people don't understand is who votes in municipal elections. If you look up how many registered voters there are and how many people voted in one of the off-year elections, in other words, not a year of a presidential election, and then how many votes the winner got, and it's almost always a relatively small number, a scary small number. So, what's wrong with these earbuds? They're messing up on me. Somebody tampered with them. Zach Larson says hello. Louis Brownie, happy noon, Professor. Yeah, we're doing a noonday show. Me, you, as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Bob blah blah is in the house. Okay, if you're early, my wife says I'm early all the time. Daniel Kester, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Hot Ideas' son was born on Mother's Day in 1983, but it's one of those floating holidays, right? So it's not Mother's Day every single time. Believe in Yourself from Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Daniel Kester asks, is CRL in? I've not seen her yet, but she sent me a note. You may have seen me look over here. This is where my phone is. She texted me a minute ago saying that she's going to get here as soon as she can. So she might be for all I know. I'm behind in the chat here. Bill McMahon checking in from New Brighton. New Brighton. I called my mother today because I have to work. There's a Brighton in Michigan, but it's just an old Brighton. Or there's a non-New Brighton. Alejandro Pena, have you seen the story on an Oklahoma judge where she tried to hold the county sheriff in contempt for people being too loud in the hallway? It was surprising. That's an odd one, but many courts do have police or sheriffs in the courtroom acting as bailiffs, and they do the bidding of the judge. But of course, if people are being loud in the hallway, you'd think the sheriff would say, shut up or I'll take you to jail. So it's kind of odd that she'd snap on the sheriff, but I had not seen the story. No. Toad Walker says, haven't had a lawn to mow in 8.5 years. Also had some flooding north of me last Wednesday. They're still cleaning the mud. Condolences and prayers for you and your family. Thank you. It's weird is that people underestimate the damage that's done when floods happen and the floodwaters recede. It's what they leave behind. It's usually mud and dirt and other things that float and get washed around. It's always kind of scary. Indy Snowman, greetings from the racing capital. I assume you mean Indianapolis? The people in Charlotte might disagree with that one, but I think that because they've always called themselves that, I think they get it first. So Donna Van Zandt says the stream video is so calming and beautiful. Yeah, it's only 11 seconds long because I've discovered that if I shoot them much longer than that, I have a hard time moving them from my camera elsewhere. And I also posted it on Facebook, I think. Dan Boyd, I'm sorry about your brother, Steve. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Art S. likewise. Brian Kennedy, I also owned a green gremlin. I didn't actually own the gremlin at the time I drove it to school. But my junior year of high school, I drove a green gremlin as my parents. And it was just, I mean, it was a car. I had friends who didn't have cars. It was a car. But to go from a green gremlin to a bright yellow 69 Dodge Charger with the RT stripe on the back was a big step up. At least it felt like it for me. So Mark Miller didn't know if you were having a show today. Well, I try to do them every Sunday. I shifted this one an hour, okay, because I have something to do at 2:00. But I wanted to do it because I didn't do it last week. So Toads Walker says a cactus can be amongst the debris that might wash in on a flood, especially in Arizona. You don't want to find like a cactus in your living room unless it's in a small pot on a shelf or a windowsill. Zach, in high school, I was always prepared for a flood. You could tell by my pants. I'm not kidding you. Right now, apparently, the hip thing is for boys to wear short pants again. Not shorts, but the ones that we used to call floods. Apparently, those are coming back. They're coming back. Blah blah blah. Did you post a video today? No, not yet. I have a video, and see. My life is like dominoes, and I push one over, and as they're falling, I'm like, "Oops, got to do something here." By the way, the Canadian robot lady is in the house. Good morning, Heather, or good afternoon, actually. And so I shot a video. I was going to put it up today. My Sunday videos tend to go live at 11:00. It's every other day it's 10:00, but Sundays I've discovered 11:00 works better. So the problem is if I did a video at 11:00 and a live stream at noon, people would log in and go, well, which one do I watch? And I hate to say this, but the videos cannibalize each other. So I hate to step on a video I just put up 45 minutes ago with a live stream. So the live stream is going to end a few minutes before 2:00, and I've got the video set to go at 2:00. So I will not have missed my streak. I don't know. I need to go back and discover how long I can go back. I put up a video a day, at least one video a day, going back for several years now. I have not missed a day. Even if I go on like vacations, I shoot videos in advance and schedule them to go up. So they do. So airplane mechanic, what is your favorite antique muscle car? Are you just talking about just the coolest concept of a car? Because I mean, I've got a bunch of them. I love the Dodge Charger Daytona from 1969. There's a model of one on my shelf back there, the red car. I also like the Chrysler Turbine car. It's got a nice spot in my heart. I've driven 3 of those. Jay Leno's got one. But when you say antique, are you talking about even older, but then muscle car? I'm not quite sure. But I do like a few other cars from that era. But I think my 2 favorites are probably the Turbine car and or the Dodge Charger Daytona. So, I don't know what's wrong with this one. It just does not want to stay in. These are expensive too. Yes, I bought expensive earphones for listening to myself, monitoring. John N. Jr., sorry to hear about your brother. Thank you. I appreciate that. Canadian Robot Lady, Beata Graf av Del Hagen. Good morning and greetings to you. Alan Sr., good morning from Scappoose. You caught me off guard. Very tricky is because the new Lehto time zone. Can I declare a new time zone? Boomers in the house. Good morning, Stephen, Canadian Robot Lady. William Page, good morning. Squatch Bigfoot, why not a 69 Camaro? I like Camaros. They're pretty cool. But number one, a Camaro is a fairly common car. There's a lot of them out there. I mean, if you're gonna go, Steve, like, what about a Yenko or a Copo with a big block? Okay, I guess. But I like the Turbine car because it was so unusual. There's only 9 left in the world. Only 5 of them run. Or the Charger Daytona, they only built 503 of them. And right now, a good one with a 4-speed and a Hemi. will get you about $1 million if you got one for sale. So Mark Miller is considering a nap. He has several chores to do, and it is, in fact, a Sunday. Believe in Yourself says he recognizes the scent of an old Mopar. It's familiar to me. Yeah, they should have a men's cologne called Old Mopar, like Old Spice. Oh. Kryptonic HD, are those in-ear monitors? Yes, they are. Could they be on backwards? Well, that's facing the right direction, and that's facing the right direction. I suppose they could have gotten twisted somehow, but I don't know because the other one's fitting more or less fine. And some people say, why do you even wear them at all? Because the second I take them off, I'm gonna start getting, oh, we can't hear you, and it's just a coincidence. And it's not because you're hearing me through these, but Believe in Yourself says a 69 Daytona has considerably more presence. Well, yeah, it's longer and taller too. But I hear you. Charlie Funk, condolences, Steve. Frank JC the third says I drove a Chevrolet Citation that got stolen, believe it or not. What's funny about that is cars often get stolen not because they're so desirable, but also because they're easy to steal. So there's probably an intersection someplace with how easy it is to steal and how desirable it is to steal. And there's probably an intersection where there's probably some cars out there that nobody would steal, even if they could. But there's other cars that people would go out of their way to steal, even if they're quite difficult. Blah, blah, blah. Do you have any estimate as to how much it costs to fix Jay Leno's turbine car? No, but I can tell you that you can do some math yourself and go, okay, what would it cost to 3D print something in metal that took like 127 hours to print or something, and then do two of those? And that's just two parts that need to be machined and so on. So it was quite expensive. It's one of the things is if you have to ask, you can't afford. So Canadian Robot Lady was asked by Daniel Kester if she likes to bake, and she says, I have the time and not working my day job. Yes, I baked several dozen cookies yesterday. Well, I'd have to go back to work later today. What kind of cookies? How do I not know about this? Good citizen says like, comment, share, subscribe. Yes, and that's what you do if you are, in fact, a good citizen. We got 244 people in the room. That's not bad. Dan Boyd says Steve's listening to the Tigers game. You know, it's amazing. The Tigers are doing really well this year. They're doing really well. And baseball has always baffled me because how easy it is to go from being really good to being bad to just, and there's a whole bunch of intangibles and, uh, but yeah, I'd like to see them do well again. So Daniel Kester, my first car was a 65 T-Bird that had been rolled. It took 3 years to restore. Did it drive straight when you're done? Art S, someone put a Packard PT boat engine in a car, 2500 CUV12. Anything above idle burns the tires. Jay's got a couple cars that have got those Allison aircraft engines in them, like the Rolls Royces and so on. Not Rolls Royce cars, but like the Merlins. And he's also got one of those engines on a stand, just sitting on a stand at his garage, and it can fire up and run on the stand. It's extremely cool. It's got a big old prop on it. It's the kind of thing that you imagine being in a horrible, horrible accident where someone gets sucked into that big blade. Steve points out that Vicky Vale drove a Citation in the original Batman movie. Are we talking about the one with Michael Keaton? I'm Batman. I liked that one, but that was interesting. Some of the later ones didn't quite do it for me. About what are you gonna do? Mark Miller, shout out to my nephew Miles, who's graduating from Gonzaga today. I've got the license plate in the set. It says Go Zags. I think it says Go Zags. Somebody sent that in a while back. Believe in Yourself drove my aunt's Chevy Citation in Nashville when I was 15. So Hold on, it jumped on me again. Tourney B says, I like the line on the old Tucker. I wonder what that would have evolved into. Yeah, you never know. You never know. And I wrote a book about Tucker, so I know all about the cars. And I've also got a Tucker on the set. And it was a beautifully designed car. Alex Tremulous designed it. And in fact, and this is a stretch, but I actually watched the other day the movie Some Kind of Wonderful. And I'd never seen it before. And I didn't really care for it. Okay. But I mean, I watched it, never seen it before. And in it, there's a guy who's playing a skinhead who looks vaguely familiar. And I look it up, and it's an actor whose last name is Codius. And I'm going, wait a second. He played Alex Tremulous in the Tucker movie. What are the odds? But with a shaved head, he looked so much different. And I looked, the movies are shot like just within a year or two of each other. Totally different looking guys. The weirdest thing. The weirdest thing. Georgiana Thornton says you need to make a video for your family about your brother of memories of your boyhood together and later. Well, I shot the video I put up about my brother on the other channel. But I'm not going to shoot a video for them. I mean, we sit around and talk about my brother all the time. So, Odious Codius. Hang on a second. I'm going to the phone. Oh boy. Some Kind of Wonderful. And the actor's name is Elias or Elias Codius. Probably Elias. I think it's Greek. So Jerry C says much prefer the Grand Funk song versus the movie. I would agree. I also like their version of Locomotion, which makes sense for Grand Funk Railroad. But Some Kind of Wonderful. The story just seemed like it's kind of like you should understand this because we're using so many cliches. It's like, okay. Oh boy. Yeah, and I apologize to those who haven't figured this out. I am simply doing this an hour early today. Next week I'll go back to 1 o'clock like I normally do, 1 to 3. So Frank JC the third. Let's go to the phones. Caller, are you there? You're watching Frasier. It's like, we've got Phil on a car phone. We've got Phil on a car phone. Skylar Perone's checking from Wake County, North Carolina. I love North Carolina. Brian Case, what's the biggest car you ever owned? Mine was a 1977 town car. Well, I had an M35 deuce and a half Army truck. Does that count? Because that would probably drive over your car. But it's a truck. But it was pretty big. I've not owned any like big station wagon type things. I've owned a bunch of Ford Explorers, which are usually pretty big, but what are you going to do? And another thing says, play Misty for me, which of course is a wonderful movie with Clint Eastwood playing the role of a disc jockey being stalked by a crazy woman. And there were people who thought that the old Fatal Attraction was so much like it that they should have credited them for stealing the story from them. But of course, Fatal Attraction was set in a different city with different professions. But I liked Play Misty for Me a lot. It's also got First Time Ever I Saw Your Face by Roberta Flack in the soundtrack. So you got to know that. Earl Jackson, Chrysler Newport, one of those vehicles where the hood is like the deck of an aircraft carrier. You probably could land planes on it. Time for Change, deuce and a half. How'd you come to own that? You can find them. They're for sale on the internet. I found a place in Pennsylvania that sold them, but I've seen others. And I bought mine. This is literally like 25 years ago. And bought it, repainted it, did some minor modifications to make it more comfortable. And I owned it for about 5 years. And then I found that I wasn't using it as much as I'd have liked. So I sold it. But they're just really cool trucks. I mean, they're primitive. Mine didn't have a heater, didn't have defrosters. There's no key; it's just a push button start. But you got to know how to start it. That's the tricky part. And they're huge, and they'll go anywhere. And when I got mine, I actually managed to get mine plated as a. I'm starting to wonder about this now. What if I turned it? Hmm. Hang on a second. That way. Let's see if that helps any. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to look at these. I mean, they worked well for about 2 years. Maybe I should buy another set. Ted Mitchell doesn't like the Ford Explorer because it makes his butt hurt on long drives. I've driven mine all over Hell's Half Acre, to put it mildly. I've driven one all the way up to the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula and all the way down to Key West and every point in between. And I've never thought the seats were uncomfortable, but hey, maybe that's just me. Indy Snowman at a 72 LTD, the biggest land yacht I had. And the ironic thing is LTD could be limited, but nothing limited about a gigantic car, right? Time for change. I was in the Army. I remember driving one. Okay, so you know all about how to flip all the switches and stuff, right? Because I used to park mine. I remember driving it up north and parking in the parking lot someplace. And it's kind of an odd sensation jumping out of a vehicle without the keys. But number one, you can't lock the doors either because there's no door locks. So, and a couple of times I had military guys come by and go, "Excuse me, can I look at your truck?" I'm like, "Sure." So Boomer says just go back to the old earmuff headphones. They're guaranteed to work all the time. I got a pair of them right there. I got the AKG K240s. Those are wonderful, but having those on makes me feel claustrophobic. When I was doing radio, I wore them all the time, obviously. But as a disc jockey, you put them on and you take them off while the songs are playing. Bob Blah Blah had a 66 Pontiac Catalina. Took my driver's test in it, parallel parked, and passed. I took my driver's test in the green Gremlin. I mean, so time for change. Remembers trying to navigate very narrow German roads. The greatest thing about that truck, though, is the front bumper. The front bumper was like wider than the truck and was built out of it was almost like a railroad rail bent. I mean, it's this monstrous piece of cast iron. And darn well, who put that there? Darn well that if somebody had come by and it was going to be bumper to bumper, the Army truck would get nothing except maybe a little paint scuffed onto it. Otherwise, it would just rip the bumper off the other car. Alan Sr., remember the Mercury Capri? Was there a Ford equivalent? Yes. I forgot what they called it, though. But Joel Jensen's got a pair of the AKG K240s. That's like my seventh pair. I bought a pair of those in 1982 when I worked in radio at my first job. I carried them for years at every station I worked at. Eventually, the covers came apart. I bought another set. And then I also discovered they're the best detecting headphones for a metal detector. And so I got pairs of those that I use for that. I think I've got 3 pairs right now. One pair may have broken up a little bit, but they're the greatest sounding, most comfortable headphones you can buy. You can get the ones. I mean, other companies make headphones that are really heavy duty, and like Visonic David makes the ones that pilots wear. But the ones that pilots wear are designed to seal out all sound because of how loud the airplane is. So I've flown with my brother, and he goes, "Put these on," and I'm like, "Oh my God, they're crushing my head." Oh. Rook counts. I need help. A local franchise dealer sold me a tuned and deleted diesel truck. Essentially, all the emissions were removed. It's a federal crime to do that to a truck. Depends what state you're on, what state you're in. The question is, they were able to sell it to you because they're probably going to say, "We didn't know. Someone traded it in. We didn't do it." But of course, there might be some kind of breach of warranty claim you can make. That depends what state you're in. You may also be able to complain to your state licensing board that licenses car dealers. They might be interested in that. And of course, the feds might be interested too. So it's a question of how hard you want to pursue that. But obviously, you got to do something about it. But I would look into um, the state regulatory people are probably where I would start. Indie Snowman, nice cans. Yeah, they actually refer to headphones as cans, believe it or not. So, Bernadine Sackinger, did the Red Ball Express use the deuce and a half? Um, the deuce and a half is more well known from Vietnam because the large trucks from World War II and the ones that even used in Korea, for instance, have slightly different body lines. And I'm not sure at what point they changed over, but I just know that you can spot the difference very quickly in the slope of the hood and a couple other touches in the outside of the vehicle. I'm sure they had 2.5 ton trucks, but the M35A2, which is what I had, or the M35A3, which has an automatic transmission and tire inflation, is a different version of that generation of truck. Sean M., how much do you sell your green Gremlin for? Well, that was my parents' car, so it probably sold for a couple $100 and they got rid of it. That was back in the 1980s, early 1980s. Prince Albert's has got a set of David Clark headset for flying. I've heard of those also. I wonder, is there a relation to Visonic David? Because there's a David in each of them. Chuck Whitehead, have you thought about using a green screen for your lives? You can make it look like a radio station background. I've toyed with the idea, but not enough to actually buy a green screen. Time for change is, I think, the Red Ball Express with Jimmy's. DePaul, 31, have Sennheiser phones. Yeah, Sennheiser makes good stuff. They also make microphones. There's a microphone. There was a period of time in the 70s to 80s where the microphones in radio stations were Sennheisers, and they gradually shifted over to the Electro Voice RE20s like this. And the Sennheiser microphones are really cool looking. I always thought they were cool. I never worked at a station that used them, though. And I looked into buying one to do my podcast with. And I thought, I know this microphone better, so I just got this microphone. Zirup Road says, back when I was in the Army, I thought they were Deucenhof, like Duesenberg. Come to learn it's deuce and a half, as in 2.5 tons. Prince Albert, I don't know about Visonic. Visonic, it's Visonic, Visonic, David. Yeah, I know they also made speakers. What we call ours Dick Clark's. Dan Boyd, Telefunken. I've always thought Telefunken's got the greatest corporate name. Telefunken. Oh. Airplane Mechanics' David Clark headsets are all green. Yeah. I think I've worn a pair. I've flown a bunch of times in smaller planes. Dan Boyd, Dusseldorf's. Old McDonald has a car. When I had my driver's permit, my dad used to take me to the cemetery to practice. He's always told me if I hit something, who's going to complain? Brian Kennedy, props to any YouTuber not using a Shure SM7B. I used a Shure at a radio station I worked at called WTRX. It was a nice microphone, and they're good microphones also. And I think what happens is a lot of people go, I'm going to get into YouTube. They watch a few YouTube videos and go, I'm going to do what that guy's doing. Hang on. Straightening the microphone here. And so I've used the RE20 simply because I like it. And it's not a lot of people use these, so I guess it does make me look a little different in that respect. Blah, blah, blah. Koss, Koss, Koss headphones. Believe in Yourself says he's used an SM7B and will again. I believe they used one in the recording of the song Thriller by Michael Jackson. One of those worthless pieces of trivia that you get stuck in your head. Padre says he saw an article that says Dodge might revive the Viper. And I've heard stories saying that, but it's also one of those things that's hard to say. If it's going to happen or not, it's not official. If they do revive it, it'd probably be a 10-year hiatus they were on. I'd be curious to see what they're going to do. If they're going to like make it like really limited edition, like Ford's GT or something. So we'll see. Joe Pangia, I hope your significant others are having a great Mother's Day. 2 a.m. Monday here now in Adelaide, checking in from Australia. Dan Boyd, Viper, the snake which thinks it's a phoenix. Believe in yourself says my Focusrite Vocaster 1 can run the SM70 with no cloud lifter needed. The Vocaster 1's best feature is the on-off switch, and it's cheap. Yeah, one of the problems you have is like this microphone right now is running directly into my computer through a USB-C plug. And so to make that happen, I had to buy this Shure adapter. I think it's Shure. Yeah, it's a Shure adapter. And so this microphone is being powered through the USB and also everything else, including the earphones. And so my other RE20 is going straight into the video camera. And I'm not real big on figuring out what all is necessary to make a particular microphone run through the computer or through the camera or whatever. I'm so used to going into a studio and there's just a microphone or two and a mixing console. Who knows how it works? It just works. Brian Case, did you ever put an animal on the air? I put a cat on the air that meowed on command at WRLP in Warren, Pennsylvania. No, I didn't. I never even thought of that. That's funny. Was that like a stupid pet tricks thing, or was it literally like was the cat part of the show? Because that'd be pretty funny. You get the cat to meow on command and say, "Isn't that right, Mr. Boots?" and have him go, "Meow." Thank you. Oh. Yeah, Daniel Kester says in the late 70s, we had a base CB that had a mic like that lollipop on your display. Yeah, I get a lot of compliments on the lollipop, and it's a distinctive looking microphone. I don't even know if that one works, frankly. I bought it off of eBay for like $12. But I've got a couple ribbon mics that are older and cooler looking, but people don't seem to be as amazed by that. Alan Senior says here in Oregon on the West Coast, our winters are less severe, and only until recently we did not use salt on the roads, just sand. Yeah, I lived on the West Coast of Michigan, near enough Lake Michigan. They did not use salt on the roads there either. They use sand, and it ain't the same. I mean, you got to tell yourself, okay, they put the sand down. You still got to plan your stops like way back. I mean, it helps a little bit, but not completely. Daryl Yellity, what do you think about the Yugo when it was in production? Would you think anyone would buy it if it came back? If it was priced low enough, people would buy anything. I just don't know if that, unfortunately, that one's got a really bad reputation. Although it's almost like funny at this point. I don't know. I never rode in a Yugo. I've seen them before. They're tiny, but I don't really know. Henry Nissen says, Genelec makes some impressive studio monitors and speakers. They're one of the best known Finnish brands in the world of audio. Genelec? Hang on a second. Things I learn. If that's true and they're Finnish, I'm buying a set. Wow. Genelec. Pushing the boundaries of knowledge in acoustic design. Henry, thanks for telling me that. I will look that up and get a set, and I'll let you know what I think. Because I got some really, really junky little speakers on my desk right now, which right now I'm so embarrassed that I think about it. I'm not going to show them to you. So, Joe Pangia says it's a D104 power mic and is legendary. Oh, I know that, but I mean, like I said, I bought it for $15 off of eBay. So, Vinny Northwest says, "You go, I'll walk." Padre, why do Michigan State patrol cars have a stop sign on the hood? The same reason that the district court in Taylor used to have a sign saying "No bikini tops, no bare feet." Okay, it's not that somebody using their imagination goes, "I'm going to put a list of things you can't wear in court. I'll put bikini tops and bare feet on there for no reason." They're there for a reason because people are showing up in bikini tops and bare feet. The reason there's a stop sign on the hood of a Michigan State police car is because they probably got broadsided so many times by people going, "Oh, it's a cop. Oh, I forgot to brake." I'm just guessing, but I think that's it. Although sadly, they're revamping the cars right now because they also have a very distinctive. They've got one of the circular lights that rotates like that instead of having the light bar on the roof. And I read recently they're going to finally change and go over to the more standardized roof rack, which I don't like. I like the idea of our state troopers looking a little more dignified and a little different, But hey, what are you gonna do? Boomer says, "Are those speakers made by Craco by chance?" No, no, they're Logitech speakers. They I don't know if they came with a computer or came with the camera or they came with something, but they're just junky speakers. They worked okay. So Brett 7284 checks in from West Bloomfield. Happy Sunday. And good to hear from you, my friend. West Bloomfield, of course, is one of the nicer suburbs near Detroit. Mark Miller likes his Logitech speakers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm just saying that they don't I don't remember where I got them from, but they look cheap. They look cheap. They sound okay. But they look cheap. Believe in Yourself says you may enjoy Dead Dodge Garage and Rocket Restoration's YouTube channels. That's what I love about YouTube is there's channels for anything and everything. You name it, there's a channel for it. And it's an amazing universe on YouTube. Alan Senior says the single light on top is the bubblegum machine. The Lost Prussian, have you ever dealt with U.S. Steel since they have a presence in your area? No. But there is a large presence of U.S. Steel and steel manufacturing. And I don't know if they're manufacturing, but for instance, the iron ore pellets, the taconite that gets shipped out of Duluth and northern Michigan, gets brought on iron ore boats down through the Great Lakes, much of it being unloaded at Zug Island outside of Detroit. And I know that the unlimited hydroplanes, the really fast boats from the 80s and 90s, Miss US was sponsored by US Steel, I believe, and it was one of the big players in is Miss Budweiser, Miss US, and of course Atlas Van Lines with Bill Muncie. Rest his soul. But yeah, I used to go to those races, and I remember I have a brother who's an engineer, and he had some dealings with U.S. Steel somewhere along the way, and dealt with people over there. So, Habichuela con Dulce. Hi, Steve. Any update on finding a theater to screen Acme versus Coyote? Well, the problem is that the movie's not coming out till next year. So we can't make arrangements that far in advance because nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, what the date's going to be. So when we get a release date, I will follow up on that. I had some people suggest some very cool looking theaters, but so we'll have to take a look at that. The Lost Prussian. I work for U.S. Steel in northern Minnesota. Yeah, a lot of iron and steel stuff going on. Northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. Brianna CC, no live last Sunday. No, there was not, and I apologize. CTJ, hello from Gross Eel, Steve. And this is one of those things, and this probably is true in every place on earth out there. But I can tell you that in Michigan, there is Belle Isle, and just downstream is Gross Eel. Now, these words can be spelled differently, but you can look at it and go, "Oh, looks like gross isle." No, it's gross eel. Well, looks like Belle Eel. No, it's Belle Isle. And I remember working at Wow FM 99.5 when it was a talk radio station, and a morning, mid afternoon guy there who I got to know. I was just talking to him, and he's reading a story, and I stopped him. We weren't on the air, and I go, "It's gross eel," and he goes, "Well, it's Belle Isle," and I said, "I know, two different things." It's just, it's just a local thing. Good Citizen says only 55 likes. You need to refresh. I see 115. Ram 50 V8 Steve, sorry to hear about your brother. Thank you. I appreciate that. MF Doomer TV, love your content, man. Your videos are my daily lunch ritual. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. William Page, truly sorry about the loss of Dave. 68's way too young. I appreciate that too. Yeah, he was 68. And you know, it was just shockingly unexpected, you know. So my mother passed away 4 years ago, but we got some advance warning on that. I mean, she was ill, she was in hospice. I mean, so it's a very different thing to know in advance that that can be happening. It's still difficult. But then to get the phone call out of the blue and to have someone say, "Oh, by the way, your brother just died." And it's just it's I was talking to somebody and I jokingly said, you know, that in the movie Princess Bride, inconceivable. I don't think that word means what you think it means. You keep using that word, but it actually was inconceivable to me. It was something I could literally not comprehend in a way that I comprehend most other things. It so didn't make sense. So Ted Mitchell says, "Gross deal. You got to pay 350 just to cross the bridge." Be glad they've got a bridge. What if they didn't have a bridge? Oh, well, Bill 57 says, "I don't subscribe to any streaming services, but I pay YouTube Premium because it's worth it for skipping commercials." I actually do YouTube Premium also. Um, you know, people go, "Steve, does it bother you?" No, no, no. Do what you got to do. I don't care. I don't care. It's the law of large numbers for me. So, Padre, my mother was here one day and gone the next, and that there's a lesson in that. You know, it really is true that that every now and then you've got to stop and just reassess and go, okay, you know, what's important to me? Am I actually doing the important things? Am I spending time with the right people? I'm not wasting time? Am I killing time? So, oh, CTJ now says, no, the county bridge is closed, forced to use the pay bridge now, and it's $8, which covers both ways. Okay. So they'll let you leave, huh? Can you imagine if you got out someplace and you paid to cross a bridge and then unfortunately said, well, you got to pay to get out. And you're like, I haven't got the money. Well, you're just stuck then, you know? Oh, and by the way, this is also kind of crazy. I saw Jay Leno a week and a half ago. He was playing in Windsor, which is in Canada, right across the river from Detroit. Whenever he plays in the area, my brother and I go see him. And we got to go backstage and hang out with him and stuff, which is always nice. Very, 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 very nice guy. And got to see his act. Once again, he had Arsenio Hall warming up for him. And hang on a second. Hang on. And so backstage, hang on. How can I do this? Here we go. Can we see this? There we go. That's me on the left. That's Jay on the right, in case you don't know that. And that's a guy named Dale on the other side of him. And then the whole picture is there. And that's my brother Rick on the far right. And he's the one who's in charge of right now trying to get Jay's turban car back on the road. But yeah, so saw Jay Leno on Thursday night. Friday was one of the things for my brother. Saturday was a thing for my brother. Sunday was the day I skipped the live stream. And then ever since then, I'm just trying to get all caught up again. So it'll take me a while. Well, Bill 57, I'm 67, so 60 is definitely too young in my book. Want to live to 100, at least until I'm 99. I'm with you. Wade RN, a hospice nurse. What you described with your mother is anticipatory grieving. Yeah, and if you think about it, it's like, you might not stop to think about it until you are asked to. But when you get the phone call for just to give you an example, when someone calls you and goes, "Hey, so and so just got killed by a drunk driver who ran a red light." Number one, it's sudden, but it's also maddening. Like, what? Or if somebody dies of natural causes, but it's still a surprise, that's slightly different. And then, of course, when someone's in a hospice and the doctor tells everyone, we think here's how much time they've got left. It's a very different thing. But of course, you can start grieving early and get some of it out of the way, I guess. But it's 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 not something that we deal with very well uh, as humans. So, blah blah blah. What kind of a phone is that? It's huge. It's a Google Pixel phone. It's not that big. It probably looks big. Just probably looks big due to the scale. Okay, but Joel Jensen, have lost all my siblings and parents. Oh, I feel for you. Me, you, very cool. Thanks for sharing. Z-Rep Road says, "Gotta say, I just love you, Steve, man. You're always got a ready chuckle, and therefore a smile to share for others. You're a gem." Well, I appreciate that. I try, unless a video topic is okay, I give up. Unless a video topic, can somebody give me an honest high sign if you lose sound? Um, if I've got a video topic that's not like deadly serious, I try to find the humor in them because that's one of the things that makes stories interesting is that there's humor in there. But I mean, I won't laugh at the inappropriate things, but so I do what I can to make the stories interesting and entertaining, and sometimes that's trying to find the humor in them. So, Mark Miller, I've heard the Pixel phones have a very weak battery. I've never encountered that. My Google Pixel phone, I don't think I've ever had a situation where it died on me. Now, I do religiously charge it at night. So when I get up in the morning, it's got a 100% charge and it's good to go. I've never had a problem with it. I've traveled, and I'll carry a charger with me. But I mean, traveling, even running through airports and sitting on planes, and never had trouble with the battery. So it works out. The Lost Prussian says maybe Steve has small hands. Chris, better. Lost my father suddenly. I don't know which way is worse. Yeah, I've heard so many stories from people, and every story is different. Every story is compelling. But you hear these stories about somebody who everybody thought this person was healthy, and they had a heart attack. And um, I got a phone call once where a friend of mine from California, whose father was a law enforcement officer in very good shape. In fact, I had gone mountain biking with him in California. And just a couple months later, got a phone call and said, yeah, was he actually walking out to his car and had a heart attack and died. And he was in his 50s. He's in his 50s. And like, what? And it said, they said, well, they think he had something that they'd missed, that they hadn't caught before. So sometimes I listen to myself, sorry, I'm late. Yeah, I started an hour early. That's my fault. That's my fault. Sig226 is, I think the key to longevity is staying in motion. It helps. It really helps moving around. Even if you're not like running or biking, but just literally doing stairs. There's a book called Karate Do, My Way of Life by Gichin Funakoshi. And he talks about this. He lived quite old age. And he talks about one of the things he did. And he said that whenever he was moving into a new place, he would always try to get the place that was up the stairs because he said, if nothing else, it forced me to do one set of stairs a day. So, oh, Southern Torrance is finding humor for his videos, just looking for more Hertz stories. Oh boy. Daniel Kester lost my sister when she was 12 in 1974. Wow. Blah blah blah. When my father died, I decided it was time to grow up. I've heard stories. I've heard stories where kids lost both their parents, or one parent, but like one parent was working, one wasn't, and the working parent passed away. Again, it's nothing you can prepare for. SD back out in the video with the AI statement in court. Could that be used in an appeal? Yes, that's one of the concerns. And I didn't even mention it in the video, and thank you for bringing it up. So let's suppose that the judge sentences the guy on the high side. He can file an appeal and say, the judge let in this AI creation that simulated the guy who's dead speaking as if they were his own words, but they're words put in his mouth by Chat GPT or whatever. And I can see a court saying that's inappropriate, because impact statements are supposed to be by people who are impacted. And this isn't even a person. It's a generated video. I had people say, I don't see the harm. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with creating the video and showing it to your family, for instance. But if you want to come into court and tell the court how it affects you, that's great. But for them to come into the court and say, but this is how it affected him, this isn't him, so. Jay Klein, my mom died in 01, pancreatic cancer. Since then, all three of her siblings have died. I've lost many since 2020. Pancreatic cancer, too, is one of those ones that you hear about where it's almost seemingly, when I hear about it, they discovered it and then the person died. Like they seemingly don't ever catch it in time. So Prodigal Stranger says, son of a, I missed the first hour. I'm sorry, I started an hour early. Sorry. Codemeister beats my mom passed at 49. That's one of those things that I look at those ages of people who passed away much younger than I am now. I look at like Mozart. We didn't live at the same time, but I look at how old he was when he passed away. And I'm like, he accomplished all that way back then. Alethea, is someone going through liking my comments on Steve's videos right now as I keep getting notifications popping up on my screen? Well, probably, but you can turn those notifications off. I had a couple things that would send me notifications, and I'm like, okay, I can't have this. It's annoying. Yeah, Southern Torrent says it's like Max Headroom testifying, pretty much. Dan Boyd says, but you can't argue that the victim was not impacted. Yeah, so if he had recorded something before he was impacted, yeah. Airplane mechanics as a truck driver, it's hard to exercise. I jog every time I stop the truck for the night. I seem to be the only one. I can see where that would be difficult, because it's extremely tiring to drive for hours and hours and hours at a time. And when you get out, you want to stretch your legs, but you probably want to relax, right? I would think. So I can see where that would be tough to actually go, okay, now I'm going to go run 10 miles or something. School Bus Mike says, hey, Steve, from your friend Mike in Westland, I finally decided to figure out how to change my screen name and profile picture. School Bus Mike. Thank you. Twilight Child, lost my youngest brother at 34, died from a bee sting. He didn't know he was allergic. Yeah, that's one of those things. I mean, I know now they're much more aware of allergies, but I've known people who have had bee stings and had bad reactions to them. Now, when I was growing up, I got stung by bees a lot because I was a little kid playing outdoors. But my mother had to carry one of those EpiPens on her just in case. Padre, how do you feel? How do you deal with the spam bots in the comments? I don't. I ignore them. If you try to deal with them, I mean, I used to go in and block them, but they invent a new one every single day. And the spam bots are being created by programs designed to create them, and I can't outdo that. So you just give up. Tim Nossum, I cared for my dementia mother for her last 3 years, even knowing it was coming, taking her places didn't make her passing any easier. Yeah, I've also dealt with that. A couple of years ago, an in-law that was having Alzheimer issues, and it was very, very difficult to visit with her because some days she wouldn't know who anybody was. She barely knew who she was. Other days she seemed to know a little more, but it got worse and worse and worse as time went by. And sadly, a lot of people don't want to visit somebody in that condition because they're like, well, she doesn't know who I am anyway. Still go. Trust me. It's doing them some good for you to go. Walter Ferguson, Steve, you and Charlie LaDuff should do a podcast channel, team up on all the political stuff going on in Michigan. I don't know Charlie. I mean, I know who he is, of course. He's very well known around here, and he's actually done something that I'm extremely jealous of. He got to take Anthony Bourdain around Detroit when Anthony visited Detroit a few years back. Anthony's no longer with us, but Charlie got to hang out with Anthony, so that's pretty cool. But I do not actually, I don't know him, so I'll have to look him up and see what his channel's all about. Bob Lablas is a spam bot. Seem to have very nice things to say about you. Oh, what's funny is they'll have a picture of some hot model, and she's got some improbable name like Mary Christie Janet Susan the third, and then it'll say, "Your videos are always so enlightening and intriguing. I cannot get enough of this," or something, and you just know that there's telling it to invent a name, probably steal a photograph off the internet, and type 3 sentences of nice words, and then usually like put in something that would try to plug some other product or something. So Bernadine Sackinger, does anyone out there know if there's a way to make AI hallucinate on purpose? Well, I think you could probably feed it some very, very conflicting information and say, I want you to write me an essay on cowboys on the moon. And it'd probably come up with some real trippy stuff. But of course, there's never been any cowboys on the moon as far as I know, at least not on horseback. it's it's so hard to get the horses up there. And you can't get them to wear those helmets either because their faces are too long. Hey, why the long face? Carl's Corner, better late than never. What did I miss? Nothing. Sorry for your loss, Steve. I appreciate that. I really do. Prince Albert says Theo Joe on the YouTube channel of the same name created a program to automatically block, delete, and report spam bots from your comments and shares it for free. But what good does it do though? Because if it removes the comment and they just put another one up and you remove the comment, like blocking them and reporting them is not going to do any good. I mean, it's kind of like if I rake my front lawn and a leaf falls, do I run out and grab that leaf and this lawn's been raked. So Emula's 97. Good morning from Southern California, Steve. Your videos are great to watch to relax and unwind after work. Keep doing you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. News Babe. Happy Sunday, Steve. Nice chairs. Nice chairs. The ones I'm sitting in? Mark Miller says if you want AI to hallucinate, ask it to write you a legal brief. Yeah, and then file it in federal court without proofreading it. Oh. Daryl Yellity, how about the one I've been watching your videos for a while, but only joined an hour later? Michael Beale is the 6th generation Corvette Z06, the greatest sports car ever built. I'll admit I'm not a big Corvette fan. I like the C8s. I was never a big Corvette fan. And partly it was just simply because quite often Corvettes had a reputation. It's like a midlife crisis car, said the guy with a Viper. But I know that they've got a really cool place in automotive history. And I've always respected the fact that Chevrolet did that. That Chevrolet said, hey, we're going to be known for cars like the Vega and the Nova, but we'll put out a Corvette. We'll put out a fiberglass bodied sports car. It's like, what? Okay, why not? Robert Torres says, "Don't count me as tardy. I'm here." Yeah, Dwayne Bucks is fighting spam bots is like whack-a-mole. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Walter Ferguson, keep it up, dude. I look forward to seeing you all the time. Oh, Daryl Yellity says, yeah. So what the spam bots do is the spam bot program goes onto YouTube and creates itself a new, identity, and then it logs on as that identity and starts liking videos and commenting. So if you go and look at the spam bot, it's only been in existence one day. And so that's why it's worthless to fight them, because you report them, well, they don't even care. They're going to create a new one tomorrow. And so don't get me wrong. I guess if you can make a bot that fights their bot, it's okay. I just don't see the purpose behind it. So Aaron Freeman, where were you last week? Not here. I took a week off. I apologize. Tom said, much rather have a Nova. There's some cool Novas, and I always jokingly tell people that the Nova is like just the basic car. It's just a car. I had friends who had Novas. My brother had a Nova. Sig226 says, I'd like to have a 90 vet with an L98 and a 6-speed. Zafar Syed, hi, Steve. My condolences. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. I appreciate that. S. Gutogs is not a Corvette fan. That's it. Where's unsubscribe? Unring the bell. Dan Boyd, what's the actual point of these bots? I think some of them do post spam. And some I'm convinced a lot of stuff that happens on the internet is just vandalism. It's just people goofing around because they can. Lowell Riggs IM says, a few days ago, somebody on YouTube accused me of being AI because I was polite. Blah, blah, blah. BattleBots, great TV show. I enjoy watching the machines. You know, the funny part about that is I remember reading an article about the BattleBots before it was on TV. And it was like an underground subculture thing, like out in California or Arizona or someplace. And a lot of them were very, very just crazy. And then they decided, hey, this is actually a great thing for television. So, Wild Bill 57 says, Steve, I really appreciate your consistency putting up videos. Always interesting. Even your long videos are never too long. Thank you. What's funny is I put up a video in the last month or two. I'm drinking water, by the way, for those who care. And I was going to put up a video. I knew it was going to go long. And so I said, hey, this video is going to be a little bit long. And it's about 30 minutes long. And a bunch of people go, Steve, that's not too long. I said, I didn't say it was going to be too long. I just said it's going to be long. It's going to be longer than the average person might expect me to put up. Stanley Gustafson, I'm going to miss your Sunday 525. As my wife and I have planned a weekend in the UP. She's never been to Kitchen to Kippy. And yes, I said it correctly. Cheers. Here's the question. Have you ever been there? And are you familiar with the UP? Because I know the UP like the back of my hand. Now, I'd not been to Kitchen to Kippy until a few years ago. But I'm more familiar with the Copper Country up in the Cunard Peninsula. But there's a lot of cool stuff to see up there. So if you're going to go anywhere in the UP and you need suggestions on things to see, ask me. This is one of the things I love talking about. I'll talk about that stuff all day long. Sam as I am says nobody's buying Corvettes now, despite their performing as well as cars costing 2 or 3 times as much. Yeah, it's always one of those things. It's half performance and half of it's just perceived value. Some people really like them, so they're going to buy them. Wade RN says Nova in Spanish can be translated as not going. And that's one of those things. It's almost like a Snopes story because Nova in Spanish, it would actually be no va to be no go. But crunched together, it's kind of like notable. You wouldn't say, oh, you mean no table? No table? No, it's notable. So, because apparently the Nova actually sold quite well in Mexico. $2,000 MCR says, Steve, you need to worry when people don't notice you missed a Sunday live. R. Herman, do you remember the circular saw drag racing? I seem to recall something about that. It does sound dangerous. Southern Torrent Tardy. I didn't know Steve took attendance. Oh, I'm paying very, very close attention. I know who's here and who's not. Zach DeMundo says this is true. Steve gave me travel advice, and I did a great camping trip near Copper Harbor. I assume that's what you mean by Copper Hopper. Elathea, I'd rather have an AI boyfriend than a real one. What about an intelligent boyfriend as opposed to artificial intelligence? I don't know. Michael Beal says, I like the C8, although I maintain that they're misbadged because you can't really call it Corvette if it's mid-engine. That's an interesting thing because engine placement is something that is often identified with the car. Like, is it a Corvair if you put the engine in the front? But on the other hand, I think a lot of people have talked about how General Motors didn't put things mid-engine simply because they wanted to keep going with off-the-shelf parts, But time's ticking. Anyone buying an RV these days? You know what's sad is there's a couple RV dealerships in Michigan that are just selling RVs so fast. It's like I could do nothing but RV videos, and millions of people could see them, and people will still buy the RVs. And then they call my office and go, "Hey, I bought an RV, and can you help me?" And I go, "I'm just curious, where'd you get my number from?" "Well, I looked you up after I watched your video." "Okay, which one?" "Don't buy an RV." And I say, "Okay, hang on a second. So you bought an RV, you're unhappy with it, you watched a video called "Don't Buy an RV," and now you're going to call the guy who made the video to see if he can help you." Did you not catch the fact that the video is designed to warn you? It's a warn. It's a cookbook, people. Devin Bound coming into Michigan on US 2, headed to Traverse City this summer from out west someplace. Because if you wanted to, you could make it to Kitchen to Kippy without going very far out of your way. And then you'd be heading across the top of Lake Michigan, probably passing through, like, say, Escanaba, which is a fun town to say. DeBall points out that Steve Jobs did, in fact, die of pancreatic cancer. Cliff Ollinger says, I literally found your channel by following a Batmobile link. Yeah, I did a couple videos about that guy at Fiberglass Freaks who makes the Batmobiles, the replicas. So Stanley Gustafson says, yes, I've been there many times to Kitchen to Kippy. My parents and I went almost every summer when I was growing up. I've watched all your videos. If only Copper Country was closer to Grand Rapids. I assume it's going to be by GR, right? Oh. Wall Street Tech. Thank you very much, my friend. I drove US Highway 2 between I-75 and US 41 in the UP twice. Once I had an inline 6 Nova. You have to imagine you pop the hood on a straight 6 Nova, and there's got to be like, this much engine compartment and this much engine in the middle. You can almost climb in there and work on it. Dan DeClerc says General RV is drastically reducing prices due to the economy. Zirip Road says, I just got that. It's a cookbook. Elathea says, I'm not looking for a boyfriend, so AI is just fine. But you know what they say, when you're not looking for one, that's when you're most likely going to find one. Prince Albert says, if we're going to tie car identity to engine placement, what does it mean when the first Corvettes were actually sailing ships? Detroit has never had much logic to the naming of their vehicles. So. Believe in yourself says, one of my parents' friends died of pancreatic cancer. It was misdiagnosed as diabetes. As a former director of engineering and development at the Kennedy Space Center. Wow. James Farmer says, I think people might buy old RVs because they might be going homeless. Well, I know the saddest thing of all is I've known so many people who woke up one morning and said, "You know, I want something. I want to chuck it all and see the country. I'm retired." And so they cash everything out, sell their house, and buy an RV. And a week later, it's leaking. They get caught in the rain and there's water pouring inside the RV. And they go back to the dealership. The dealership goes, "Yeah, I'll leave it here for 6 weeks. We'll fix it." I can't. I live in it. Who told you to do that? Well, the salesman, I told the salesman, well, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's still a thing that gets serviced, and it gets serviced the way we get things serviced. So leave it here for 6 weeks. And then next thing you know, someone's calling me from a hotel going, my RV is the shop. I'm living in a hotel. So Airplane Mechanic says, I got hurt in a car accident. My personal injury attorney died of pancreatic cancer in the middle of the case. Wow. That's a crazy set of facts. Amber Miss 69, hi, Steve and all. Dan DeClerc says RVs have too many single points of failure. You need redundancies that houses or yachts provide. And keep in mind, I'm talking about RVs in a huge, huge universal term. So I'm talking about anything, whether it's a trailer or a pop-up or a tow behind or a fifth wheel or a full-blown self-driven camper to a pusher camper to like a tour bus type thing. And some of the ones in the middle that cost a lot of money are still stick-built like mobile homes. As we all know, mobile homes are pretty much neither mobile nor a home, okay? And so you take something that's stick-built and put it on a chassis and wobble it down the road and see how long it stays watertight. So Maker Mike says, I've been doing van life for about 1.5 years now. My mental state is far better. See, that's the cool thing is you can get up and move and change your neighborhood when it works. Time's ticking. Are towed campers as bad as RVs? Generally speaking, I like to tell people that RVs, on some level, the problems are always going to be there, but they just seem worse the more you spend. So if you buy a $15,000 pop-up and it leaks, you're like, what do you expect for $15,000? When you buy a $150,000 self-propelled unit and it leaks, you're like, I spent all that on this and it leaks. But there does come a point where the quality is so good because you're spending so much. So if you buy yourself a motor coach, like the type they use for like tour buses and stuff, I got a friend who's got one. I've known a few people who've had them, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that much money, they've managed to solve all the problems by spending money on getting the work. Jesse Anders, hello, Steve. Hello, Steve from Rochester. Hello, Steve from Rochester Hills, Michigan. Hello, is anybody in there? Oh boy. For running away, how do you feel about sailboats? I've got nothing against boats or sailboats or motorboats or racing boats or power boats or unlimited hydroplanes. But I'm not a boating kind of person. I have a canoe, but I've known people who've had boats, love boats. It's a whole different lifestyle. And the fact that you can sail, for instance, on the Great Lakes and pull into a different marina and dock and stuff, it's pretty cool that you can do that. But of course, boats are expensive. I used to handle boat cases years ago, and I can tell you right now, people do things like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a boat and it leaks. And boats, although they have more than one job, so to speak, what's the one thing a boat should do or should not do? What it should do is keep the water out, and it should stay dry on the inside. The fact that it leaks is a problem. And so years ago, I had a guy call me about a boat that cost $300,000 or $400,000 and just parked at the dock. It would be sinking. Is that a problem? Mark Miller, you mean there might be an RV that is good? Oh, yeah, but can you afford it? I mean, technically speaking, I can build you anything you want. You want an RV that doesn't leak? Yeah, we can build it. It's going to cost you a fortune. And by the way, what happens when it leaks? You still got to take it in for work. Alethea, loads of boats where I live. Yeah, Michigan has the second or third highest number of boat registrations in the country. And it's because we've got a lot of inland lakes, but we're also touching or surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. And so there's a lot of people with boats, and a lot of people have got boats that take out places, and a lot of people live places where they can boat. So, John Delano, are converted buses better than RVs? Um, if I had to go with one and price was no object, I would say yes. They generally have a better, you say better outer structure, but also the drivetrain and the platform is usually better. So, Leo the Nomad going to be in the UP in July. Give me your top 2 or 3 pasty places, and how do you like them? Well, if you go to the UP coming up across the Mackinac Bridge and you hang a left, you'll go past Lehto's Pasties. No relation, but extremely good pasties. They also have a location in downtown St. Ignace. And the only other place I recommend is Muldoon's in Munising. And it's on the west end of town, starting to go around the bay a little bit. And Muldoon's Pasties, you can't miss it. It's right there by the bay. And fabulous pasties there also. Believe it or not, pretty much all of the rest of the pasties in the Upper Peninsula are all made by 2 or 3 different places that just crank them out and ship them to restaurants. So if you go to almost any restaurant in the UP and go, do you have pasties? Even if it's not on the menu, they'll say yes, but they're all made by the same place. So the 2 I recommend, though, are Muldoon's in Munising and Lehto's, no relation, in St. Ignace, either west of town on US 2 or in town. And every summer, I get about a dozen emails from people going, Steve, Lehto's pasties, any relation? I go, no relation, no relation. Sean, have you ever driven an amphibious car? No, I've not. I've been in a duck, which is a military amphibious car. And there was a guy giving duck rides in Copper Harbor one year where he'd take the duck out into Lake Fanny Ho, and you'd get in the duck, you'd drive through town, drive into the lake, drive out, do a couple of loops around the lake, and then drive it back. It's pretty cool. It's called a 2.5-ton DUKW. You've heard of those things because they're often used for tourists, and a couple of them have been involved in really bad accidents. One of them capsized and sank someplace in Missouri or something a couple of years ago. They took it out in really, really crazy weather. But Tom says, I just won $100 on a cash for life ticket. Okay, I got news for you. $100 ain't gonna last you for the rest of your life, but there you go. Alexander Ganaka, duck is the official vehicle of the Wisconsin Dells. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those, but I actually saw one that was for sale. Well, now that's a little weird. So the Canadian Robot Lady says, time for me to wish everybody a lovely Sunday. Enjoy your day. I'll be back next Sunday. Bye for now. And thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate that very, very much. I've always got to try to coordinate with her because, especially when I move the time like today, she's in a different time zone and all that. I also had a problem this past week. I got a phone call from somebody, the producer of a TV show, which I'll talk about later. And they said, do you want to come on and be a guest and answer a legal question for one of our viewers? I said, absolutely. They said, how is 10 o'clock on Thursday? I look at my calendar. 10 o'clock on Thursday is fine. About 9:30, I started getting panicked emails going, Steve, where are you? We got a problem. What's going on? And I said, it's not 10 o'clock yet. And they go, where are you located? And I told them, they go, oh. And they thought I was in a different time zone. So some odd reason people don't realize that Michigan is in the Eastern time zone. But anyway, Stanley Gustafson says, thanks for the UP pasty recommendations. I'm not related to the Gustafson store in Moran, but do get asked. Okay, see, that's funny. I mean, I've actually gone into Lehto's pasties, showed them my business card that says Steve Lehto, and just to let you know, is there any chance we're related? And we can rule it out very quickly because my great grandparents' name was longer and got cut in half, and their great grandparents' names were longer and cut in half, but the names were very different, very different. So Midwesterner says he lives in a ranch and has an 8-wheeled Argo amphibious vehicle. Lots of fun. Just drive it into a lake down the launch ramp. Everyone just stares. I saw one of those for sale very, very close to my house. And I was actually looking to go, now that's kind of cool. I just wasn't sure if it'd be something I could work on or not. And that's the kind of thing I can picture. If something breaks, they go, well, it's going to cost a lot to fix, even though you got it really cheap. Fatty McButterpants is hi and bye. Busy day. Happy Mother's Day. And thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. Mr. Meerkat. Hi, Steve from Nottingham in the UK. Is the sheriff still giving you guys trouble about the king's deer? I love your work, Meerkat. Oh, I love the meerkats. Derek Smith, if you own a duck, would you have to register it twice? Yes. Yes. A license plate for the street and the numbers on the bow like a boat. Yes. So if you were to put it in the water, you'd need, in Michigan, they call them MC numbers for some odd reason, MC. And the street would require a license plate, of course. Jingles for Jesus reminds us that Romans 10:13 says, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. But I don't know what tune that would be sung to. So, Elathea says, I'm on Greenwich Mean Time. And I was in Greenwich in November, checking out the sites there. There's a neat little, we'd call it a flea market, but I'm not sure what you guys call it, where there's vendors and stuff. It wasn't outdoors, but it was in the central area of another building, and a lot of people selling crafts and so on. Had a great time there. Brian Ellis, can you get Lehto slaw with the Lehto pasties? You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody just yesterday about this, and I wore the shirt on camera. It says Lehto slaw, Finnish style, and somebody sent that in for me. And I have a very dear friend of mine who is Finnish. She speaks Finnish. She teaches Finnish. She's an educator. And I contacted her and said, hey, look, I'm thinking about making some slaw. And I'm thinking about making some slaw that I can claim as Lehto slaw. And I want to do something that would make it Finnish. And she had some ideas for me. And then she said that if I needed her to, she would come up and help me prepare it. And then, of course, she could also translate what I'm doing into Finnish. So I every year or so, it occurs to me that I should say, I'm going to do a cooking show next week and actually do a cooking show. I won't be cooking. I'll be making slaw, Lehto slaw. I'm just not sure whether the joke will be funny enough to sustain an entire video or if I'm going to get a ton of, this is stupid. So we'll see. Elathea says we call them flea markets too. But when I ever say flea market, I get all these people going, what's a flea market? What's a flea market? Dan de Klerk says it's Suomi, not Finnish. Well, Suomi is Finland. Okay. News babe, enjoy your day. I try. Idris Taylor, I've been suggesting that for years. Southern Torrance says you should post a Lehto Slav video every April 1st. Too bad you missed it for this year. Well, the thing about it is that I occasionally do April 1st videos, and people don't appreciate them. I mean, I literally got people going, this video is stupid. You shouldn't put up stupid videos. And in radio, when I worked in radio, it was a tradition. But the tricky part was trying to do something that had been done before. And so if you can come up with an interesting idea, I'm curious, Dan, are you Finnish? Dan de Klerk says Finns, spelled with one N, say their language is Suomi, not Finnish. I'm curious to know, are you Finnish? Wade Pittenger, do people really start their emails? Yes, they do. It's implied. It's implied with how they address me. Mark Miller, everyone is a critic. Yeah, but when everybody criticizes it, you know. Oh boy. Tom says Rachel Ray got her start from public TV by doing an episode of a cooking show on the radio as a last minute replacement for a cancellation. So, see, that to me sounds hilarious, and it very well could be true. I'm not a big fan. I've not seen a lot of Rachel Ray's stuff, so I can't really say what you know, how she does. But I've heard that she's very good on the television. But think about this: when you're cooking, you got to be talking because it ain't that fun to watch. Someone, I mean, come on. Bob Blah Blah says, Steve, did you know that General Motors told all their dealers they're not allowed to sell the 6.2? Is that the one that's having all the trouble lately? I've seen a bunch of stuff lately in the news about General Motors and a problematic engine of theirs. Believe in yourself on the radio. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Robert Torres says, I'm listening, but not chiming in because I'm cleaning my road bike wheels. Mark Miller confirms there's a stop sale, from what I understand, on the 6.2. Yeah, so Bob Blah says the crank bearing seats due to lack of oil and there's no known cure. That's the crazy thing when they discover some weird problem like that because, yeah, the crank bearings are deep inside the engine. And it's not like you just, oh, let's just go in there and fix them. I mean, it's really easy to say. AKY115, Steve, fancy with the purple cup. It's a hefty, not a solo, but it's a hefty cup. And I did buy a pack that has 4 different colors in it, and it rotates through the colors. By it, I mean me, because I actually shuffled them. Actually, my producer shuffled them for me. Alexander Ganaka says he went to Cadillac for parts yesterday, and the parts guy said the recall is on hold now. So, for the two, what car do you think you'd prefer given the choice? As a daily driver or what? I mean, Daryl Yelledy, do you think Homer Simpson would be a good lawyer if he's a real person? No, he's remarkably stupid. Besides, Lionel Hutz is the Simpsons lawyer. Lionel Hutz was brilliant, but sadly they killed his character off when Phil Hartman got killed. So, Prince Albert, you have a producer. Yeah. Oh boy. Brianna CC, would you ever consider purchasing a Cadillac Escalade? I've never been too into those gigantic vehicles. There's also the Ford Expedition. I mean, I don't know if this thing could fit in my garage, and I don't. I mean, I can see where somebody would want one, but they don't appeal to me. AKY115. Do you think if someone has to take out student loans? Oh, I'm sorry, take out student loans for both undergraduate and law school, is it still worth it? It's hard to say. I borrowed money for law school. I managed to get through undergrad fairly cheaply because I lived at home, went in state, I commuted to school. So I managed to get out of law school with nothing but the law school debt, which was quite oppressive. Took me a while to pay it off. But if you're young, sure. But it depends. Obviously, you're going to be saddled with that debt for a while. Miguel Sudorado says, if you ever do a viewer subscriber appreciation giveaway, I'll gladly take a Brodix aluminum big block. Generally speaking, the people giving away the prizes are the ones who get to pick. So one of these days, I think I might just bring in a case of books and go, hey, I'm giving this away right now and do that. But not yet. Somewhere down the road. Alexander Ganaka says they received a knock detecting tool, which will decide the engine's fate. A knock detecting tool. That's an interesting one. So presumably means that they're going to start your engine up and listen to it with a glorified stethoscope and go, oh, healthy, healthy. Nope, not healthy. Daniel Kester says that Hefty bought Solo. So the Hefty cup could be a Solo cup without the label. So do they still put out Solo cups? Or are they all Hefty now? I'm curious about that. I know at one point in time Solo cups was based in Michigan. Another worthless piece of information I had in my head. Because I just said it out loud, it'll be stuck there for another 20 years. But hang on. Just got it. Okay. Just got a note from my executive producer. Oh, Vinny Sluga. Hi, Steve. I'm sorry I'm late. Happy Mother's Day. Well, I moved up an hour today, too. So sorry about that. Alethea says I need my knocks detected. And yet she's not looking for a boyfriend. So I'm just putting together different comments she's made. Ram 50 V8, Steve, my mom loves the signed copy of American Murder Houses. Doesn't that make a great Mother's Day gift? Oh, boy. Miguel Sudorado says, speaking of books, in all seriousness, if I buy your Jet Car book and mail it with a return label, will you inscribe it? Even better, if you want to buy one from me, hang on. I'm trying to remember. Oh, the Turban Car book, that's about to get reprinted with an update. So you're going to want to wait on that. But if you're in America, you can buy most of my books from me and I'll sign them and send them to you. And we can handle the payment via Square. And I sell them for the same price that you can get them off of, like, say, Amazon. But I wouldn't recommend you do the Turban Car book just yet because the book is going to get updated this year. So you'd be buying a book that will be out of date relatively soon. And I would hate to do that to you. I wouldn't expect you to buy a book just so you can buy the update a couple months down the road. Aaron Freeman, if you live in the Great Lakes, can you visit Canada for replacement parts? Presumably you could. I've never run into issues with replacement parts here, though. Vinny Sluga, can my mom have a copy of your American Murder Houses book? I've got the American Murder Houses book available. I've got a few of those. I smile because I've got a lot. Email me, steve@latestlaw.com, and put AMH in the title, the subject line. And I will send you a note about how that works, and then we can work it out. Wild Bill 57 says Australians are infatuated with red Solo cups because they can't get them over there. Why? Is it something to do with the coloring of the cup is toxic or something? Alexander Ganaka, don't tell me what to buy. Oh, boy. Mike Garrett's, I wish some auto manufacturers start making affordable steam-powered cars, maybe a steam-electric hybrid. It's interesting because Jay Leno, I've talked to him at length about this, about steam-powered vehicles. He's got, I believe, a steam tractor in his collection. I'm not sure if he's got a steam-powered car. A few years ago, I shot a video. I met a guy who has a steam-powered Chevelle and a steam-powered Volkswagen. And I shot videos about both those cars and put them up on my channel. They did very well. Alethea says, I mailed you a shirt last week, but no idea if it'll actually reach you, as the man at the post office had to write USA on the parcel for me. Okay. IB, one cool cat. I thought it said iconoclast. I'd be like, I'm late. Did I miss any sarcasm? The usual. Reiner Man says I'm running out of steam. Alexander Ganaka, how many lives in a row has Steve mentioned Jay Leno? Well, if he's comes up in conversation, I mentioned I saw him live 2 weeks ago. So I mentioned that because I like to include you guys in my life. But if you like me not to tell you what I do in my spare time, I'll stop. And if I mention anything about old cars, people generally go, "Does Jay Leno have one?" So Vinny says I sent the email. Cool. Eletheus is because your address doesn't have the USA in it. Well, people in the USA don't have to put USA in the address. Now, it's been a while since I shipped something to England. I've mailed stuff to Canada and Australia and New Zealand, but Australia and New Zealand are cost prohibitive. I mean, very, very expensive. But Canada's not bad. So Diana ceases more Leno, please. Oh, believe in yourself. The time I shipped something to Belgium, the paper was abundant. Was it being shipped from within the EU or was it being shipped from like North America? My understanding is that stuff being moved around Europe is pretty easy once you're if you're inside the EU. But huh? Believe in yourself. I shipped from Canada. Okay, well, all bets are off. Thanks. I don't know. Romark 85. You have spare time? Yes, I do actually. From time to time. Alethea, I was wondering if you have import tariffs or anything on mail received from the UK. I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works. But I think usually you've got to declare what it is coming in, and if it's not that expensive, um, I know when I ship a book someplace, I go, "What's the book worth?" I go, $10. They never say, "Oh, there's a huge tariff you got to put on that." Casual chess history. Do you drink Fago a lot? No, I haven't had Fago in years. Fago, of course, is a Detroit thing, but I'm not a Fago drinker. I'm curious about casual chess history. Do you study chess history? Like Bobby Fischer or earlier? Paul Morphy. Daniel Kester says American murder houses will make a good Christmas gift. So will Death's Door, which was the joke. Alexander Ganaka, Fago. We've got a juggalo here. Yeah, the Insane Clown Posse early on developed some kind of affinity for Fago and worked it into their act. That is, that they got the audience to work it into the act. I get the impression of being the front row of an Insane Clown Posse concert. It's kind of like sitting in the front row for a Gallagher concert, but instead of watermelon, it's Fago. Casual Chess History says this is an experimental channel, but yes, I study history and chess, historian by trade and chess player by night. I'm also a historian, in case you didn't know. I've written a few history books, and my undergraduate degree is in history. So I consider myself a historian of sorts. I've even taught history. I am McNate says I love I'm guessing Fago commercials for Red Pop. The guy had an infectious laugh. There was also the Fago commercial, the people singing on the boat, which a lot of people mistakenly thought was the Boblo boat, but it's not. But in Detroit, you'd make that mistake. Reinerman, have you made history? Well, by writing history books, I can make stuff up and very few people would know. Oh, IB one cool cat. The Ohio Supreme Court did it again. Yeah, I got a video going up about that. I think. Hang on. I'm so confused about what's going on. Yeah, so here's the deal. I mentioned before that I moved this live stream up. Some people have noticed, including blah blah blah, that I did not put up a video this morning. Normally I put it up at 10 or 11 o'clock, but I thought, well, if I'm gonna do a live stream at noon, I don't want to be doing a live stream right after a video goes up because then they'll step on each other. So I've got a video going live at 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock. And that video is about the Ohio Supreme Court and something they just did, which reminds a lot of people about the boneless chicken wings and the bones they have. So that's at 2 o'clock today. Well, Bill 57, the older I get, the more a historian I've become. Depending on your accuracy, you might just become a fictional storyteller. Oh. Mark Miller in fourth grade, we had a chess master come to class and we got to play against him in pairs. Me and the kid I was paired with was the last pair to get mated. It was really fun. What's really, really funny about the real upper tier of chess guys, like, your Magnus Carlsens, your Bobby Fishers, or, various people. And the amazing thing is that, like, for instance, even like Gotham Chess, the guy's a very, very good chess player, but he's not like Magnus Carlsen good. But these guys can literally play chess in their heads, blindfolded. And I've seen it before where they'll play several people blindfolded, meaning that they're blindfolded and they got five chessboards and five people are playing them, and they'll beat all five of these people. But they've got to do it all in their heads. And think about the memory power you've got to have do that for a single game, let alone five happening at the same time. And it's a whole different level of mental ability that is amazing these guys have got. Jesse Anders went by the house at 14 Mile and Greenfield Road to the big rock out in front. Reminded me of you seeing it hit long ago. Yeah, there's a road called Greenfield that dead ends into 14 Mile Road. Where it dead ends, there's a house that kept getting hit by cars. So they put this gigantic rock out in front. Now the rock gets hit by cars. You can see it on Google Earth. And the greatest thing is when I drove a tow truck for the city of Birmingham, the side of the road that the rock is on is in Birmingham. And I got a phone call and they say, we need you at 14 in Greenfield. I'm like, I get to tow a car that hit the rock. No, somebody woke up just in time to see the rock and swerved and hit the house next door. So they need a rock also. But I had to hook that car up and tow it. And when I was on VinWiki, I told that story because it was one of the entertaining tow truck stories I had. So Prodigal Stranger, how many X mile roads are there in Detroit? Well, the ones that are named that, they have quite a few. And some of them have two names, like Maple Road in Birmingham is 15 Mile Road. And so you look at it, you can see that they go all the way up into the 20s or 30s, I think. But sometimes they stop naming them that, or sometimes people will call one a mile road, and it may or may not be. But believe in yourself, as says, I remember being able to see my car in the driveway using Google Earth. I could see my army truck, but I used to tell people, yeah, it's so big you can see it from space. Bob Kerflugen, good afternoon. Steve checking in from Gaylord, Michigan. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you. Casual chess, I played around 1800 blindfolded. Unfortunately, but legal moves are still a feat. Agidmator, who's my favorite chess channel on the YouTube, shows this one game and he goes, this is probably the biggest blunder I've ever seen by a grandmaster. And he shows the move the guy did, and it's like, it's the dumbest thing ever. But Agidmator goes, this was a blindfolded game. And he goes, I think the guy mistakenly moved the wrong rook. And suddenly you realize if he'd moved the other rook, it would have worked perfectly. So Occasionally, mistakes are made, but there you go. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for you right now because I got to be someplace at 2 o'clock. Next week, we'll try to do it again at 1 o'clock like we normally do. Until then, behave yourself. But at 2 o'clock, there is another video going live on my channel, which would be the Sunday video. So enjoy that. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.